All right, so the technique that we looked at in the last video is going to work for most of your functions. There's going to be a couple cases where it doesn't quite work out, or at least where we're going to get different things with negative and positive infinity. So look at this function here. This is a weird function, 2x minus 2 over the square root of x squared plus 1. And here's the graph of it. One thing you notice about this is that as you're going to the right, as you go towards x goes towards positive infinity, your function is getting closer and closer to 2. There's a horizontal asymptote at 2. So we would expect as x goes towards positive infinity, we would say that the limit as x goes towards positive infinity looks like it's going to be positive 2. But as we go towards negative infinity, it's getting closer and closer to negative 2. So we have two different horizontal asymptotes. Now, the details of like when this happens and why are not really that important to us. We can just modify our technique a little bit so that we always get the right answer. So let's look at some of these problems. So here's the same problem. We're gonna try to do the same thing involving limits. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that before we would have said, well, we'll multiply by 1 over the highest x to the highest power in the denominator. Well, here it's not clear what the highest power is. You've got x squared, but it's inside the square root symbol. So in a way you could say, well, 1 over x squared is, and 1 over, x squared to the square root of x squared, is basically the same as x. As we get closer and closer to infinity, this is basically going to be the same as the square root of x squared, which is just x. So one thing we can do is we can say, well, look, if I take infinity and I take as x goes towards positive infinity, well, that's what we're looking at right here, the square root of x squared is going to just be x, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do then is instead of multiplying by, in the denominator, instead of multiplying by 1 over x, though, I'm going to multiply by the square root of 1 over x squared. And in the numerator, I'm going to multiply by 1 over x. Now, I know that as long as x is positive, these two things are going to be equivalent. So I'm still multiplying by 1. I'm just, instead of writing 1 over x down here, I'm writing it as the square root of 1 over x squared. Okay. When I do that, then I can do my magic that I did before. The limit as x goes to infinity, so equals, I've got 2x over x is 2, 2 over x. Okay, so there's my my numerator. My denominator, I can just multiply then, because square root times the square root, I can just put them together. I end up with 1, the square root of 1 plus 1 over x squared. Now I can evaluate these limits the way that I did the other ones. Okay, I've got 2 minus 2 over infinity, that's 0. Square root of 1 plus 1 over infinity squared, that's just 0. So I get 2 over the square root of 1, which is just 2. Okay, so I've got my limit as x goes to positive infinity is 2. And if we look at our last page, right here, that's what we saw here too, right? We said that we predicted that limit would be 2, also just based on looking at the graph. Okay. What happens as x goes to negative infinity? Well, the key thing is whereas the square root of x squared, as x goes to positive infinity, the square root of x squared is just x. As x goes to negative infinity, the square root of x squared is going to equal negative x. And if you don't believe me, just imagine you took a negative number, well, the square root of, say, negative 10, or suppose we were taking negative 10, well, negative 10 squared would be 100, square root of 10, square root of 100 would be 10, so we'd end up with the opposite sign of whatever we started with. Okay, so here I'm going to multiply by, in the denominator, 1 over x squared again, right? That's how I get rid of this power here. In the numerator, I'm going to multiply by negative 1 over x. Negative because as I go towards negative infinity, this down here, square root of 1 over x squared, is going to equal negative 1 over x. And if it doesn't make total sense, just trust me, just try it. Okay, so we get the limit as x goes to negative infinity. 2x over times negative 1 over x is negative 2. Minus, so I've got negative 2 over times negative 2 times negative 1 over x, so that gives us positive 1 over x, or positive 2 over x, rather. Okay. In the denominator, we get 1 plus 1 over x squared, square root of 1 over 1. Square root of 1 plus 1 over x squared. Okay, go through here. We get, now we can evaluate negative 2, that's negative 2. 2 over infinity, or 2 over negative infinity, that's still going to be 0. Square root 1 plus 1 over negative infinity squared, that's going to be 0. Okay, so I've got negative 2 over the square root of 1, or just negative 2. Oops, welcome. Camera there. Okay, so that's good, right? Because look what happened. If we look back at our graph again, and we looked at the graph of this function, as x goes towards negative infinity, this is going to a different asymptote. f of x is going closer and closer to negative 2. So now we see the algebraic limit justification for that. All right, so that's a little tricky. Let's look at some of these other, there's 2 down here that are also negative limits, and I'm going to go through those, and then in the next video I'll go through the homework problems. Okay, so I've got highest power is x squared, but it's square rooted, so I will do the square root 1 over the square root of x squared here. In the denominator, because this is negative infinity, I'll do negative 1 over x. Again, the square root of 1 over x squared is going to equal negative 1 over x as x approaches negative infinity. That's why I'm doing this. Okay, so let's keep going. Limit as x goes to negative infinity of negative 3 plus 2 over x over square root of 2 plus 1 over x squared. Okay, this is going to give me negative 3 plus 0 over the square root of 2 plus 0. So I get negative 3 over the square root of 2. And I'm not going to worry about rationalizing the denominator there, because that's for suckers. Okay, same thing here. Highest power is x squared inside the square root. I'm looking at x going to negative infinity. So I'm going to multiply by the denominator, the square root of 1 over x squared. In the numerator, negative 1 over x. Okay, what's going to happen? Very exciting. Limit as x goes to negative infinity. Negative x plus, or rather minus 2. Right, it's positive 2x over negative 1x. In the denominator, I'm going to get 3 plus 2 over x squared. Now I can put my stuff in. Negative over negative infinity, that's going to be infinity, minus 2 over square root of 3 plus 0. So I get infinity minus 2 over the square root of 3, but that's, what is that? That's just infinity, so we don't really care. All right. That's that. So I'll do the next video, I'll do the homework problems, but that's just the practice problems from the notes.